All right, I am here. So I want to grab something first. Welcome back. It's become a bit of a catchphrase for us, isn't it? Welcome back. Welcome to Project Viminacium. Welcome to week 7 of introspection. I'd like to start with a bit of a sort of reflection on the week and how sort of things have been going. Look, Sundays are always the most brutal because it's sort of I'm trying to do 2 things at once. I'm trying to take some time to relax and just chill and also then record the week's progression. So it's always a bit challenging when I get this final moment when I'm doing this. I'm always just a bit like, whew, yeah, one more thing to go. Overall, it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a week. But with that, it's also been quite a breakthrough of a week as well. I found that it's getting to the point where it's not just about practice anymore. I'm finding, and for a long time it was. You have to learn let's learn first the Ableton and the doors, and let's try this one, let's try that. Okay, how do you do this? How do you do that? And then where's the kicks and the snares and the hi-hats, and do this, do that, study here, do this, travel here, try this, work on this project, work on that project, do this mix, do that mix, etc. Right? So you're developing that understanding and knowledge, and then let's approach creating my own music and work on the different songs, and then let's approach an album and stuff like that. And then it's sort of gradually elaborated into this mixing and DJing and other stuff as well, and incorporating live instrumentation, acoustics and stuff like that. And then when we got to Project Viminacium, it was something that I just in some ways naturally fell into, but it was an idea of mine to really just expand upon the space that I had previously had a lot of more ground in that was guitar and more of the heavier side of music and heavy metal and rock, those type of ideas with playing guitar growing up. But then getting with the dance and stuff like that, I wanted to really incorporate those 2 elements together. And then it really came again to the point of, okay, it's a big area to cover, and a big motivator for that was there were certain things I was enjoying in the sort of digital space with Ableton and stuff like that. It can be very flexible, but there's also things that I wasn't 100% with the particular grooves, and I found that, oh geez, I could do this a lot quicker if I could just play what I want. I have this idea and I just want to play it rather than, pressing some pads or stuff like that. It's just not my way of creating. For some, they're very good at it, and that's very successful for them. But for me, the pads and stuff like that, I'm not a huge sort of pad when I'm creating music, right? I like to really be in the nuts and bolts and physically create a sample, something like that. So it's a different way of approaching things. And I wouldn't say it's a different way, but it's just my way of doing it, right? And it's sort of just naturally progressed into, okay, well, it'll be much better if you could perform this the way you want, right? Because there's always a bit of a limitation in digital space when you are electronically creating music in terms of performing it. You always have to have a bit of a compromise, I feel. And I just didn't want that. I wanted to, for example, the acoustic guitar. It's very difficult to replicate that digitally, and I wanted to really incorporate that more into the music, the raw aspects of the authenticity of it, the sound, the acoustics, the hollow nature of the guitar, and just have more, in some ways, air in the music. Have a bit of a noise floor, if you will. So that naturally just sort of progressed and just keep going, keep going. Practice this, practice that, etc. And keep practice, and you find your own sort of way of doing things, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But now that I've sort of gone through all these years of that, it's to the point now where it's just sort of sustainable. And what I've found, this week is that the biggest breakthrough for me has been that I don't feel like I have to sort of constantly fight. It's been like that for years when you're just constantly fighting. This sort of classical. They laugh at you at the beginning, right? And then you're motivated by that. It's like, I want to show you, and then you're sort of motivated by that, and it pushes you to get through the difficult times and stuff like that, and all that. This person says that, or this person doesn't believe in you, and you just and all that. And as a person who's just been through all that over years, you just find a way to sustain yourself and push through and keep going and keep going and keep going. And what I found is that a lot of it is just anger and a lot of negative emotions, right? And I find that is just not sustainable anymore. And practicing something to death because you don't feel like you're worth it or something like that, right? So I think it's been a combination of those two. And when I decided to just step back a little bit and think, I was having my sort of morning coffee on Thursday, and it sort of hit me that from a very young age, when I was in high school and stuff like that, I always had that feeling of sort of not being good enough. And I would remember being in high school, and I'll be like, okay, this is the year we're gonna get our act together, and we're gonna motivate ourselves to start well. And we start well, and all of a sudden 3 months passes, and I have been to class or something like that, or I missed the whole semester or something like that, and all of a sudden there's an exam, and I'm just like, where did the whole year go? And I told myself I wouldn't do this, and I'm in the same spot I was in the previous year. You have all this piled up. You have 3 weeks before the exam, and what happened? And when after years and years of that, you develop a sort of a fear almost of that happening, right? It's like, oh, and it's deeply sort of been a part of me for so long that almost when I got into martial arts and stuff like that, for a long time was like, oh, you're not good enough, you need to get better, you need to get better, you need to do this, you need that. And when I got to a point where I was confident in myself, it was a big sort of relief, but I wasn't 100% confident in myself, because I knew that there was a lot more to sort of understand, and it was just the beginning of the journey, right? And it took several years before I got to a point where I was very confident in the art, and I could confidently share ideas, and teaching helped with that. But then when I transitioned essentially all into music, it was almost starting from ground one, with particularly in dance music and stuff like that. And almost we had to sort of, come to terms with the fact that, that understanding, that sort of feeling of mastering something, of having knowledge in a certain area was lost, because uh, it was only in the guitar and also in one area. But I hadn't had much experience in dance and electronic music and stuff like that. And I knew that was a big mountain to climb. And I'm really glad that we're sort of been to that process, and I'm able to now share, ideas through the art of mixing again, and really share some um, you know creative ideas, in the dance guitar solos, uh, and you know share some of music I like, through the cyberpunk and the rave till I die, the siesta Sundays, those art live mix series, and really expand upon something I've developed a great love for of over many years. But again, it's at a point now that I am becoming quite confident in it, and it's a strange feeling, because I keep forgetting that I am, good at it, and I constantly keep trying to tell myself that I'm not. When I need to tell myself that, you're good at this, and you're doing it the best that you can, and you just need to keep putting in the work and keep moving forward, and you only get better. But you're at a point now where you can confidently start sharing the ideas, the vision that's unfolding. But at the same time, because I've had to sort of carry it with me for so many years, this feeling of just not being ready, of not feeling I'm good enough, or not having that sort of knowledge base, and just always being underprepared, or just not understanding. And I remember I'll be in exams and have no idea what like the question is, and everyone's like finishing. It'd be like the worst feeling, because everyone's finishing, and I'm like one of the few people left, and like I'm like halfway through the exam, and my mind would be like exploding. I'm like, oh my god, like what do I do? And like, I can't, ah, and I remember, over and over again that would be the case, and it was just awful. And I'd be like, oh my god, like, is, what am I doing wrong here? It's like, is it something with me? I don't get it. Like, uh, and that, and through that process, I realized it was a motivating factor. It was very motivating to, to get a level of mastery in particular, martial arts, and then into music. It was okay. Let's get to a point where we really understand this. So it was good in some way, that sort of fear, that sort of, it was driving force to keep pushing forward, to that sort of voice in your head telling you you're not good enough, to keep motivating yourself to go forward. And whenever someone would tell you something, or this or that, it would motivate you further, right? But I find that it's only sustainable for a short period of time. Right now, the point I am now, I just don't want that anymore. I want to do it out of love. I want to do it out of joy, out of passion for this. That's what I want to share with you. This process of of Viminacium, building up towards it. Uh, what's what's I find sustainable is having a love for it, having a joy for the process, for a love of the music. And that's so much more motivating to me, inspiring than hatred and thinking I'm not good enough. And I guess it's just now a process of just battling that and realizing, I am good enough. Like, I deserve this. I put the work into this. And I think that was quite a big breakthrough for me for the piano, because for so long I was like, oh, it's not, I'm never gonna get this. It's always like it's not for me. It's always, you know, I always associated it with, you know, there's some posh sort of private kids, and they'll be showing off on the piano, and I'll like look at it and be like, man, you know, wish I could play it like that, uh, but I guess I always sort of connected it with school, and looking at those sort of kids, with the clarinets and pianos, and sort of go to these private schools and posh sort of um, the private schools and stuff like that. I always felt like um, um, somehow they were better than me, and I always felt a bit inferior, if you will, to that. But as I was growing up, I found that uh, you know I can only be as good as who I am, and I need to be confident in my own skin. And it's not an easy thing because you're constantly comparing yourself to this, to that, to this, And now where I am right now, I need to start thinking from that perspective. I am happy with where the piano is. I am happy with how I'm doing it the best I can right at this moment. And by continuously motivating myself into week 8, into week 9, into week 10, we're gonna get better. But I'm finding that it's not just about practice. It's about sort of the mental aspect of 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 the sort of psychological aspects of just saying to myself, you need to move on. You need to move on with your life, and you need to understand that you've put in the work, and this is the result of that. And you are good at mixing and DJing and piano and the guitars and the vocals because you've put time into it. It didn't just happen overnight and here you go. You have you you are able to record it confidently because you put the effort, you put the time into it. You deserve a good recording, and just being able to get up in the morning and not be sort of constantly feeling that you're not good enough. And it's something that I am struggling with, to that aspect of understanding. Yes, you are. Like, look at everything you're being able to create on your own, and it's only going to get better and bigger with you continuing to move forward. But at the same time, I want to do it sustainably. I want to do it in the place of love, in a place of happiness, of joy. And it might sound like a crazy sort of, oh, duh, that's much easier. Like, but when you've spent so many years in a sort of certain perspective or a sort of mind frame, it's helped you get better. It's helped you get to the point where you're confident in something. But it's challenging to switch it now and be like, okay, I want to do this in a place of joy, rather than just constantly comparing myself and constantly trying to tell myself that I'm not good enough. And I'm making that switch. I get up in the morning and I'm sort of in this sort of perspective of, then I realize, wait a minute, no, like we're actually doing this. We're into week 7 of Project Viminacium. I'm finally able to record the takes and share them, and for them to be of quality to put out, and to keep progressing and practice this and practice that. Okay, let's get the Search for Unnatu-RUL Happiness together. Let's get that DJ set. And what I found is is giving me great joy in being able to practice the rehearsal for DJ set, but also be able to share some of my ideas and thoughts behind. Okay, you know, apologies. Behind what I like to do. Let's try this. Let's try that. And just being confident, being okay in your own skin. This is the way I like to do it, and I've developed my own sort of way of trying things out. And I think that from that perspective, it's really good to share that. Um, um, that makes sense, and I just feel that the place I want to get to is going to require just a different type of perspective, different type of psychology. And it's not going to be a place of you're not good enough and you need to do and you're shit and you're garbage. That's not going to be it. It has to be a place of you got this. Like you're crushing that exam. Like you're going to go in and finish off in half an hour and leave. That's the perspective. That's what we need. We need a place of confidence, of just relaxation, to understand. Okay, let's incorporate the next vocals. Let's incorporate the acoustic guitar. And what I found is that through each week doing the practice, it's almost like doing a show and presenting that show and presenting that practice take, presenting that piano take. And that process of doing it's almost like practicing it for X amount of hours, all into 15-20 minutes, because you're really zoned in and you really have to push yourself to get the best take you can. So I think that's really been a really positive breakthrough for this, and understanding and getting to that perspective. Okay, you can take care of yourself now. Over so many years, I've had to sort of sacrifice my health in some ways, and just to practice and do this, do that. And now it's at a point, okay, like you just can't keep doing that. You need to take care of your health. You need to start eating better, start, drinking more water, exercising, meditating, mentally be clearer in what you're doing. And just doing that over the past, couple of weeks, working on the piano, working on the drums, working on, the different aspects and things I'm doing has greatly increased. And just shifting that perspective really opens a door to progress. And I feel that over the past couple of months, it's just been a bit of a sort of, brick wall for me. Even for like stimulus and like tasso, I've just been doing it over and over again. I'm like, where are we going with this? And I know that it's just not there. It's like there, but and having this perspective now and switching over and getting up getting up in the morning and being relaxed and being like you should be very proud of yourself because the amount of work you put at that piano to be able to do it now at the point you can, and look at over the past few years everything you've been able to accomplish and look at the state it is now, and like you should be very motivated by that. And sure, there are areas, right, in all different facets that we can improve upon, right, that we can find areas to get better. But it's also at a point where I am confident in sharing those ideas. And sure, some areas are my understanding and mastery in them is much greater. And there's some areas that, okay, look, you need to keep working on this. You need to keep practicing this. This needs to be this way. This needs to be that way. But again, it's at a point of a love for getting better at it, rather than a point of you're not good enough and you can't do this. And that's been really powerful for me this week. It's been really tough to sort of get my head around that. I'm dealing with it right now, and it's probably going to take a few more weeks for for it to sort of settle down a little bit. But yeah, just being able to record that piano and share it with you was a big step for me. And I'm like, yes, like this is really good. I've been wanting to do that for years. And the new vocal takes as well, and finally being at a place that I can start sharing them with you. It feels really good. It feels like we're moving forward. We're getting one step closer to getting this project together. Yeah. So that's kind of just what I wanted to share with you this week. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and a big part of that has just been, it's almost like I feel sort of guilty of taking a break and being like, okay, what no, it's take a break and and have a different perspective on things and rest and then practice, right? Practicing and banging your head against the wall isn't going to help. It takes time. It's frustrating, sure. I would just want to, get up tomorrow and all be ready, and everything's at the level it needs to be, and awesome, let's go. But something like this, it's just going to take time. And in some ways, when I look at it, the project turned out this big because of that mindset of mine of, oh, that's not good enough. Every time I sort of got to a place where I thought it was good, I started adding more stuff. I added this, let's add this, let's add that, to the point where it wasn't just one got guitar piece. It's X amount of guitar pieces, guitar this, vocal this, piano this, drums this, and then it was at a point where it wasn't just one drum performance, it was like 5 drum performances, and to the point where it all just crashed on top of my head. And over the past couple of years, it's been a process of, okay, look, let's pick which one is gonna we need to focus on one, and let's start doing that. And then, okay, which of these is gonna have this project, let's focus on that. But again, I will always like, let's add this, let's add that, let's add this. And what I've realized now is because of that mindset I've had of, oh, you're not good enough, you need to add this, or you need to add that. Okay, no. People are gonna think this because you haven't added this, or it's only one song, so you have to add 5 songs. And I guess a part of that is just insecurity, a bit of inassurance in yourself. But going through this process with you, talking about this, sharing the practice takes with you, sharing, the content I create, just pressing that publish button on YouTube and creating little snippets here, sharing this, sharing that. Every time I do it, I feel I'm getting more confident in my own skin, in sharing the content with you. And by recording this and sharing this with you and getting it ready and publishing it is mentally for me, okay, this week is done. Let's move into next week and push forward. So yeah, I'd like to give a big thank you for allowing me to do this with you, and for you joining me on this journey for the project. Yeah, look, it's just something I'm gonna have to, start sort of telling myself, and even when I'm doing practice takes, I started telling myself, look, man, it doesn't have to be like 110% for every single practice take you do. When you're repeating it, just sometimes do the repetition, do the reps. When you're at the gym, do the reps. repetition, repetition, repetition. When I was reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall uh, um, biography, autobiography, he talks about this. Every area is, he approaches from, okay, repetition, another rep, another rep, another rep, another rep. And in some areas, it is like that, right? Repetition, 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 right? But then you also, if you look at it from a bodybuilder's perspective, you need to take care of your health. You need to make sure you're eating well, you're staying hydrated, taking the vitamins. Otherwise, if you don't do that stuff, you can do as many repetitions as you want. If you don't take enough protein in, the progress, the way you feel, the way you're moving forward, isn't going to be as beneficial, right? You won't see as much growth as, for example, other maybe bodybuilders might have. And I think a big aspect of that comes from being confident in your own skin and understanding that, okay, now it's a process. You're getting to a point where practicing, doing the reps isn't as important as doing it meaningfully, and taking care of your health, making sure you're drinking enough water, vitamins, exercising is now at a point where it's going to be complementing those takes. And it's only going to get now better, because now we're dealing with, for a lot of the takes, we're dealing with emotion. We've passed the point of learning them. The words, for example, of the song, where this, what's that, the delivery of the words. We're at a point where it's about, okay, how can we inflict this song, with a particular emotion? Can we inflict? Inflict. Can we add a bit of attenuation, onto this word, onto that word? How are we vibing with the piece? For example, N95 or Summer Thing, or Before I Forget. We're at a point now where we've practiced it so many times. It's not just about, okay, let's maintain the right, pitch of the song, something like that. It's about, can we add a bit of an inflection here? Can we add a bit more of a mood? How are we with the song? Adding, that's what I'm focusing now on the pieces. While, for example, Into You, the piano piece, it's still the process of, okay, you really need to continue learning the song, get the fingers right. Okay, this chord goes here, that chord, that transition. Okay, you need to, strengthen up your pinky when you're doing the bass notes. But for example, Shape of My Heart, okay, now we can incorporate more emotion into the song. And that, again, you need to, be in a good frame of mind. You need to be healthy. You need to be energetic about it, because it takes a lot out of you to bring that emotion into the song. And the healthier you feel, and the clearer you are about it, the better you can perform that piece. So it's just about that aspect, which I've never had to sort of, I never really thought about it from that perspective. But I found that, the past couple of weeks now, from week 6 into week 7 now, having that approach has really, really created some breakthroughs in this journey, in this process. And it's a new area for me. It's a bit confusing. I'm like, interesting. Now, it's not just like, okay, no, you don't practice, right? But it's a matter of almost like, when they talk about that secret, right? And like the psychology of, visualizing what you want, right? Sure, we visualize it, right? But then it's also about applying and practicing that, and doing this, doing that to, put into action your visualization. You can't just sit around and, and it's, okay, let's practice. But then let's see, can we, do this, let's do that. What helps the vocal? Okay, you get more sleep, right? You do this, and you do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, look, I'm on this journey with you guys. I'm sure there's an area in your life as well that you're trying to get through and trying to progress. And I guess for a lot of us, this, it's a common thing to, I guess, to be feeling that you're not good enough, right? And I think that a lot of people have misjudged me because of my appearance, the way I look, right? It's like, oh, you must be confident. What are you talking about? And it's actually no. Psychologically, your mental state is very powerful, and I've never really attributed my sort of physical appearance to my confidence, and I've always felt a bit out of place. Uh, my group of friends always, I guess not the typical sort of friends you would sort of think I would sort of um, uh, hang out with or something like that. Um, and I guess it just shows you that there's more under that sort of page, that you never judge a book by its cover, right? Uh, and and for a long time it bothered me, but now I'm just very comfortable in my own skin, and I'm starting to be out, I should say. Um, and a lot of things that used to bother me in the past just don't bother me anymore. Like, I don't, if I growl something like that, the attention doesn't need to be on me 100%. I'm more than happy just to be, focused on my own or talking with someone, and not worry about what everything else is going on. So it's been really positive. Um, but I guess a lot of other things, they creep up from time to time, and I'm just like, "Oof," because it's challenging for those aspects that you've just sort of been you've sort of had to sort of battle for a very long time. It's difficult to let go, and they want to hang on. But I th- I really feel that to see this to completion, we're really gonna have to let a lot of that stuff go. And I think the first one to progress is really letting this feeling of not being good enough. And even though a lot of people over the years have tried to sort of tell me that I'm not, it's it's important that you say no, no, wait a second, I was good enough, and I am good enough, and you just didn't appreciate it. But I appreciate myself, and I'm gonna see this through. I think when you have that approach, it's gonna help see this through. All right, I better stop before I start crying. But look, yeah, it's not an yeah. Anyway, I think I just can't take this anymore. I'm gonna wrap it up for now. Um, Thank you so much for joining me. Uh, I encourage you, as always, good luck this week, whatever you're doing. Uh, Keep moving forward, and you know, keep climbing that mountain, whatever it is, whatever you're searching for, whatever you're pushing towards. You know, keep keep fighting, but just if you're in a place where you just seem like you're just constantly banging your head against the wall for weeks or months, try looking at if there's an area in your past, or something that's blocking you in some ways, that's like psychologically you need to get past to move on. It could help you. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Enjoy the practice takes. Enjoy the new additions in phase 2. We've added in, without me, the lucid dreams, and the studio version for bother, and the acoustic rendition as well, the version I have for that song. It's really great. It's really great to start sharing them with you, because I've been looking forward to it, and I think that it's a cool sort of different direction for the pieces. And they have their own challenges, but it's nice to be in that sort of next phase, and build upon what we started with, and introduce these new pieces to to progress forward with. So enjoy the new pieces. And I really think you'll like the piano practice takes. I'm really happy with the progress for them, and yeah, it was really good. It was really good. Overall, this week, it has been a roller coaster. It has been a lot of ups and downs, up and down. But overall, besides all that and some personal stuff, it's been positive. Uh, and I think these practice takes this week are really a reflection of that growth and development. Okay, I'm glad this is over. Oh boy, 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 boy. Okay, I will catch you all in week 8 for the next one. Much love to all of you, and I shall see you. I shall see you then. All right. Okay. All right. No more.